do look like pillars. I mean, yes, they're not cheese. You can see the square hole there, and what that is obviously where something like a bar, you know, like a piece of rebar, say, will go down the centre. I wouldn't say that you've got a huge bar that runs the full length of a pillar, and then you put these through. That wouldn't make sense. You would just, you know, you would probably have a bar maybe about 3 inches long, and stick it slightly through each one. You get me? It looks like this thing has been hit by a massive tidal wave at some point, right? And this wall was made out of wooden lats, and look, I know it doesn't look like it. I'm talking about this section here, or maybe it was built into it later and, you know, it was blocked off. You can see the framing of it there, right there. Have a close look at it on the Google page. This thing isn't very thick at all here, right? This is just a smothering, this is. You know, it's like a plaster to make it smooth. You can see the framing. But, and that's the reason why I think these things got embedded in this. Yeah, there will have been iron bars as it got pummeled by the wave. These things got smashed into this wall and stuck in the wall with the iron bar. That's the only way that I can explain what you're looking at right now. Yeah, they've not been built into this wall, you know, used stupidly as packing, have they? So if you can come up with something better, then do. This thing here, this was just about showing you how things petrify, because you know, I've come up with 6 different ways, you know, where there's loads of minerals running over something. You know, this could have been anything at one time. And you know, minerals in a river, a stream running over this all the time will eventually mineralize it over and over and over again and turn it into a stone, a rock. Okay, this thing here, I know it's slightly blurred because it was a small image. Yes, they are boobs that have been stuck onto this thing at some point. It's a slightly different material, right? It wasn't carved like that. I don't know. You know, you would think that this was a cross from a church, saying someone's defaced this thing. This could have been part of a, you know, a roof, a beaming, yeah, a main support or anything, but it's petrified. You know, this was once wood, and it's just leached a load of silt in the ways that I've got into. This was in the last video, and it's just the roof I'm showing you here, because obviously this was once concrete that's turned into sandstone. The lime has ran out on the floor and created a fake floor. It's petrified lime, and you know what you've got left is sandstone. It's too thick, isn't it? You know, this wasn't wood, but this could have been wood. You know, you might build a concrete structure, but then you're going to encase it in plastics and wood. This thing here, you know, they would say, yeah, this was rock cut, but what I'm getting at is, can you see the outline of where this thing has been built? Yeah, it's been put together, it's been built. This thing was in the last video. It's the same site. This thing here, I think, hopefully I might show you a comparison through the Movie Maker. When I finish this, I might put this through and show you. I think this was something like, you know, the leaf springs that I showed you at this site in Georgia, Uplastica, in the last video. I think that's what's happened here. I think it started to rust. Yeah, and as it rust, the weight of this eventually crashed it down into the mud. Right, hopefully I will show you that. But you know, again, even though this was made from concrete, obviously, this area over here is petrified wood, saturated in silt and clay, and then petrified. Right, that's the top of it, and that's what I'm getting at. You know, the leaf springs that hold the roof up. That's the gable end there. You can see how that's shaped. This thing here is obviously saturated petrified wood. Take a close look at that. And this thing here that they constantly put through the Ancient Aliens series, you know, they call this a megalithic block of stone. The aliens have come down and carved this out, but again, there's absolutely no doubt that this was made from wood. I'm not saying it was all carved in one piece, it could have been carved in pieces and then put together, but it's just been buried in sand for that long that the wood has rotted away. Yeah, and as it's rotted away, it's just been forced in by pressure from the flood and just formed perfect shapes of whatever voids it was, you know, falling into, running into. I mean, just look at it. Do you think you'd be able to carve this stuff? Because I can tell you now, I can take a toothpick and carve this away in 5 seconds. This is V-A-R-D-Z-I-A Cave Monastery in Georgia. And I'm telling you now, these were once, I'm thinking that there was something like windows actually, right? You can even see there, it looks like something, you know, when you open your windows halfway, you've got, you know, a contraption that you pull and it jams. It's right there. And then obviously archaeologists, or in recent history, have come and carved themselves a little doorway through this thing, right? But as this thing was buried, again in the Great Flood, under silt and pressure and sand, and that's what you're looking at. It's crazy. This thing here is in India, and there is absolutely no doubt with anybody that's got a brain in their head. You can see how much this thing is buried. The rest of it is underground. It'll be a huge church, almost cathedral size, right, that's buried in this mud. I've shown a video already. There's another 4 images and you can see just how much this thing is buried. But this section here, do you think that, because all this is now stone, it's like mud rock, yeah, do you think that you'd be able to build something like this in the hope of the winds kicking up and rain, and build it with little match-sized pieces of rock and hope that it's going to stand up? Or do you think you'd have to build it with wood? Because that's what it was built with, and it's been buried in all this clay and sand, yeah, and turned into what I call saturated petrified wood. It's clear as day. Yeah, so in the last video I showed you this thing, and we were looking at this area where this had broken away, revealing that it looks like that this machinery, this cog type thing, is actually inside here, and this stone, some kind of, I think it's some type of quartzite, yeah, that has formed over this, but you can see that it's inside. And when I was looking at this area down here, it looks like this portion here. I'm not saying that this is this contraption, I'm talking about this section here. Can you see it down there? I've got many examples of this, because I'm constantly telling you that during the flood, concrete, because concrete does erode and crumble away to nothing when it's just left out in the open. Like an old bridge, it will just crumble away to nothing. But during the flood, because it was underwater and under so much pressure, it did this, and it pushes all the lime to the outside, forms a hard surface, and all you're left with inside is the sand and the stones, right? All this can dribble out on the floor and form an hard surface on the floor. It's one or the other. You're either left with limestone or sandstone. I've shown you both examples. This is, you know, after the collapse of the Twin Towers, and you can see what the lime has turned into. After it's been raining and hardened, it just looks like anything at Peru. That's Sacsayhuaman. That's the megalithic wall. That's a site I've shown you there. It's just the exact same thing as that. That's just another site that used to be concrete. Same type deal. This is Upplersticker again, but in that video we were looking at it from about here. Remember when I was showing you the metal framing that were also rusting away? Can you see the side of it here? As all this lime has ran out, form this shape, which it would form that shape, wouldn't it? This is, well, that's the side I've just got into. This thing here is unbelievable. Look, this is what I'm getting at. This stuff went underwater, and these were once windows, right? And they've literally dug the entire thing out. Can you see it? But this roof here, I'm going to prove to you now, right, that this was metal, steel iron girders, and there is absolutely no doubt about it. Like the leaf springs I got into yesterday, right? Can you see these? These were once steel beams, and they were bolted into position. It's right there, and you bolt one to another and then to the roof. Okay, this thing here proves it 110%, leaves you in no doubt whatsoever what you're looking at. These are huge steel girders, and all girders today, they're not solid, they're actually about, I'd say about an inch thick, yeah? They're an inch thick and hollow inside. Well, what do you think that you're looking at there? This thing has just dropped out. It's been filled in with silt and sand. It's about an inch thick, is that?